hold my Uncle Dave in the chair, keep from falling over. Eventually, right, the dust settled, and they crawled right out of that second-story window, but out on the street level. And so you think, how in the world did they manage that? Well, the first level completely collapsed beneath them, right? Yes, that's right. The 4th Avenue there, it sunk like 10 feet, right? And so everything was collapsing, right? My Uncle Dave and Dentist, very grateful for their lives on that day. A little bit more relevant to talk about it there. Save your questions, okay? Now, coming up on the left-hand side, you guys are going to see President Dwight Eisenhower here, okay? We actually affectionately refer to this statue by his nickname, President Ike on a half shell here in Alaska. Can you see resemblance? Not the greatest statue for president, right? But he's supposed to be there wrapped in the wing of a bald eagle, right? It's supposed to be a symbol of freedom and bravery. And so the reason that we have this big statue up there, well, it's because it was with his support, right, that we became the 49th state of the United States of America. January 3rd, 1959, that was the date that we were officially cited into statehood. So, of course, we're very proud of that here in Alaska. Now, for those of you guys that are new here, you gotta know what's the best way to travel, right? So, in my opinion, best way is our train system, okay? I love our trains here in Alaska. One of my favorite legs is the one down towards Seward. It takes about 4 hours to get down there. In my opinion, that's about the perfect amount of time you want to be on a train anyways, right? Gives you that time, eat lunch, dinner, full-scale bar on the train as well. Oh, totally completes the experience. You guys have a good time. Now, if you guys do decide to go up north, though, towards Talkeetna and on to Denali, just know that you're going to see a lot of wilderness up there, right? Like moose, bears, caribou, right? All that type of stuff. You have lots of opportunities to see all that. Now, here to the right, this is actually the depot building for the train rides. You can go inside and get your tickets here. They also have these real cool gift shop where they sell these like authentic model train cars. If you guys have nephews, anything like that, super great gift for them. Here to the left-hand side as well, you can see this is the Alaskan Railroad engine number 1, right? Now, this is actually the real engine that was used back in the day. Very first one that was created, and it had a very important job. Notice that little red bumper that's there? Anybody tell me, I want to take a guess, right? What was this engine doing back in the day?
That red bumper right there.
Moving gold?
Any guesses? Any guesses?
Moving gold?
Not quite. A little bit of a different track. Any others? All right, I think you guys are stumped. Basically, it was the wildlife, right? They did not know not to stand on newly built railroad tracks, and so we had to teach him. That's what his job was, right? He would go 1 to 2 miles per hour, bump the wildlife right off of the tracks. That's actually how it earned its nickname. We call him the Little Moose Gooser here in downtown Anchorage. That's cute, right? Yeah. Now here's the right-hand side. You can see the Alaskan Railroad, and I want you guys to picture on this industrial piece of looking land, 2,000 men all camped out here, living in insulated army tents. They were working tirelessly to build this Alaskan Railroad. Now, the reason that one was needed up here in the first place, there was a large coal deposit that was discovered up here in Alaska, and of course, no way to get that coal to market. So it was President Woodrow Wilson at the time, right? Way back 1914, he had buyers lined up already. In Asia, all wanted to get their hands on that coal. And so he told them to hurry up. He actually signed a $35 million package to continue the construction of this railroad. They started down south in Seward, and they worked their way up to here, Anchorage. It's about 140 miles of railroad track that they laid. And they finished this in just about 2 short years, from 1914 till into 1915. To get it done that quickly, had to have been working like 15 hours on that railroad every single day to get it done on time. Well, after that railroad was finally completed, there was enough people that started moving up here to this place. We realized that it was about time for an official name. And we were going to decide our name here in Anchorage by ballot. 3 options on that ballot. Number 1, Alaska City, Alaska. Number 2, Tent City, Alaska. And of course, number 3, Anchorage, Alaska. So which one do you guys think won? A lot of people think, right? Anchorage? But actually, no, not really. It was Alaska City, Alaska. It won the vote by an overwhelming majority. So what happened, right? Well, basically, we send the result of this ballot over to the United States government. And they reply, hey, we've been calling you Anchorage 18 months now. Time to check your mail, right? What happened? It was the postmaster. He had come up from Seattle. He used to pass by an old hardware store. It used to be to the left-hand side. It was called Old Anchorage. And so he actually just took the name right off there, right? Maybe one day we'll fight for our right to become Alaska City, but for now, I think we're content being Anchorage, right? Couldn't imagine our name being anything else. Here to the right-hand side as well, Resolution Park, right? And so you guys are going to see the man that's here, right? That is Captain James Cook, and he is overlooking that gorgeous body of water. It is known as the Cook Inlet, right? Named in honor of him. You also have the pleasure of seeing that mountain that's out there today. That is Mount Susitna, also known as Mountain of the Sleeping Lady, right? You can kind of see the resemblance there from the left to the right hand side, right? Kind of looks like she's laying down. It's actually an old Native Alaskan legend that says that the day that she wakes up is actually the day where there's going to be no more war, right? So especially in light of recent world events, right? Keep her your prayers. Everybody knows, right? We need her to wake up. Now, tell you about Captain James Cook as well. He actually sailed up here in the year 1776, and he was on his third ship, right? The Resolution. And so this is why we call it Resolution Park here, right? And so he came up here. He was trying to find something that we call the Northwest Passage. At least that's what we call it in history books nowadays. And so ultimately, right, Captain James Cook, he never found this passage. It was supposed to be a shorter trade route, right, that was linking Europe and Asia over to this side of the States, right? Ultimately unsuccessful, though. Why? Massive tidal differential out there. It's actually the third largest in the world. Well, Captain James Cook, right, you noticed during low tide, if he was going to continue, he was going to get stuck, right? So that's why he had to turn around, right, or turn again. So many things that are named after him, right? Turning an arm, big body of water, Here to the right-hand side, too, guys, look out to your right. Tell me, what are we missing from our coastline there in Alaska? Anybody? Yeah, no sandy beaches right here in Alaska. It's a little bit of a shame, right? It's not, especially when our weather's so nice. But all we have are those nice looking mud flats, right? So, or glacial silt, right? Is another word for that. Now, these mud flats, you might look like a nice walk, right there by the water, real peaceful, but it's actually pretty dangerous, okay? When there's a certain level of water mixed in between that mud, it actually becomes kind of like quicksand, right? So you're going to start sinking, right? And so we just talked about that massive tidal differential, right? Third largest in the world. You have maybe an hour and a half to get rescued before that tide comes, right? It's going to swallow you whole, right? I mean, a couple years ago, right? 2023, in November, a man from Illinois, right? 20 years old, came up, hour and a half away, right? Emergency service couldn't get to him. They had to resume recovery efforts the next morning. Very important, right? Do not go walking on wet mud flats. Very dangerous. Here to the right and left as well, this is the Delaney Park strip. Beautiful flowers that we have, no? Here to the left, it extends another 13 blocks there alongside the outskirts of Anchorage. Now, we actually used to use that as the original city limit. So anytime you'd be heading in the direction we're going, nothing but forest, moose, and bears out here, right? So it's kind of like the Wild Wild West. Now, it was about 100 years back. We actually used to land planes right out there at the strip outside of downtown, right? Back then, there used to be a 2-story limit, so it was a lot easier for planes to get around. And then also about 40 years later, we converted that strip into a golf course. And so we were eating golf balls, but then Anchorage expanded, right? Homes started getting built here, right and left here. And so golf balls, windows, they don't mix too well, right? So we had to scrap that idea. Nowadays, we just kind of hold our holiday celebrations there. So like Memorial Day, that was a big one there at the strip. About 300 people all out there. Also, another big one is 4th of July, right? Not just because we're proud to be American, but because we can have these nice, big summer celebrations, right? Huge parades there at the Delaney Park Strip. Right, we have to take advantage of it now, right? It's towards wintertime, around Christmas time. A lot of those parties, right? It's going to be indoors, right? It's a little too cold out here. Now, to the left-hand side, you'll see this is Westchester Lagoon, right? That we're passing through. You'll see a little bit to the right-hand side as well. And so it's kind of like a Motel 6 for the migratory birds that come up here to Alaska. They will start their path up in the Antarctic, fly down here to Anchorage in the subarctic, continue on their migratory route, always in search of daylight and food, okay? One of my favorite birds that passes through here, it is the Arctic tern, right? A couple reasons why it's my favorite. Number one, it experiences the most daylight out of any living creature. 2 full summers with its migratory route, it never has to fly into wintertime, right? So that's pretty cool. The other reason why I like the tern is because it consumes its body weight in mosquitoes, right? Oh. Every single day, right? And so, especially living here in Alaska, right? That is something we have a concern, right? Like to joke that it's our state bird. It's not. It's the willow ptarmigan, but nonetheless, right? Going out to forested areas, you need mosquito repellent, okay? I promise. Now, here to the left-hand side, too, West Anchorage High, there is actually a story behind this great big eagle mural that's here. It was the class of 1971. They were the ones who had commissioned the design of the mural. They went to the principal there and they asked him, can we put like a 71 or a 1971 banner on the mural in honor of our graduating class? Well, the principal, he said, absolutely not. I like the mural exactly how it is. Like good high school kids, they listened to him, correct? No, they didn't. They went straight to the designer of the mural himself. They convinced him, right, to hide the number 71, right, somewhere on this mural. I want you guys to take a few moments, see if you can spot where is that hidden 71.
Oh, yeah. No. Oh yeah, now I see it. On his left leg is one kind of in front, and the bottom leg right before the yellow claws is 71.
Alright guys, I think almost everybody spotted it. Guys, don't worry, if you're a little bit lost, I actually have a little printout up here for you guys to show you exactly where that 71 is, right? So right here, hidden on the Eagles' black cuff, right? Hidden in that negative space. And so, yeah, then if you missed it, right, look back and you can't unsee it, right? And so, of course, nowadays, we get a little kick out of the story, right? However, the principal, right, when he found out, oh man, he was furious. Now, thankfully, he didn't find out until about 4 years after the fact, right? And so it was his secretary that had pointed it out to him. She parked in this parking lot. One day she noticed it. She couldn't believe it. And so when the principal learned of this, he actually started to plot his revenge. He showed up to their high school reunion 10 years later, 1981, handed out detention slips to all of those students, right, who were complicit in hiding that 71. Very clever of those kids, right? Here to the left-hand side as well, you can see it's the gymnasium, right, that is behind the mural that's here. There was actually a basketball game scheduled at that very gymnasium for 5:30 p.m. on a Good Friday. Well, of course, the good Catholic moms of Anchorage, they didn't want their kids playing basketball on Good Friday. They wanted them either in church and they wanted them studying. And so they opted to get this specific basketball game canceled, right? The moms, they went to principal there. Actually, a great thing that they did, this ended up being the same day of the earthquake that had happened all the way back in '64. That's right. Nothing but rubble had remained from that gymnasium. Now that's actually where I went to high school at, right? So I know that they found a memorial clock. It was pulled from amidst the rubble, reads 5:36 p.m., the time when the earthquake struck here in Alaska. Now hangs there as kind of like a monument, right? So we don't forget about the events that transpired on that day and the fact that we overcame them as well. Well now folks, you guys may have noticed that we've entered into a little bit of your residential community here, right? Very desirable neighborhood here at Forest Park. Homes here, they'll start at about the about the $500,000 range, and they'll go all the way to about $1,500,000 in this neighborhood. Now, if you guys look out to the right, you'll see gated community that's out there, right? It's where really rich people live here in Anchorage. That white mansion right there, that's mine. You guys can come visit anytime you want. No, I'm just kidding, guys. Don't go there. But did want to mention, right, these little trees, right, that are in the yard here. These specifically are crab apple trees, okay? And the reason that they're wrapped up in that fencing, well, to protect against a very specific animal, loves to wander through the streets of Anchorage. Anybody? Yeah, moose, of course, right? I mean, all the time through the streets here. Sometimes even in downtown, I'll see them as well. I actually have a friend. She owns one of those crab apple trees. And what she'll do, in addition to that wiring, right, because she knows that it's not foolproof, well, she takes a basketball, right, as her weapon of choice. Whenever a moose comes a little too close to her tree, right, take that basketball, wham, right, chucks it right at the moose, moose takes off running, all scared, right? So normally it's just a nuisance, right, to whoever owns the tree. But actually, in the fall time, there is a process that happens to crab apples. We know that process as fermentation. So that's right, you guys guessed it. Here in Alaska, in the fall time, we got alcoholic moose on the loose out here. Yep, they will eat those crab apples, pass out on these very front lawns that you see here. Not just either, right? I'll tell you guys about a very specific moose, right, that did that. His name was Buzzwinkle, okay? Now, Buzzwinkle, that was a town-given name. And it stuck with him his entire life, right? Given his tendencies, Buzzwinkle, he loved eating crab apples. One time, he ended up getting tangled up in a set of Christmas tree lights, right? He didn't know where he was going. And so he stole them right off the tree with his antler, wearing them around town like a little trophy, right? Buzzwinkle, definitely a troublemaker, right? It was about 10 years back now, the time when he was alive. I loved him. He was kind of like the town mascot, right? And so Buzzwinkle, if I piqued your curiosity, you want to learn a little bit more about him, give him a Google. Plenty of stories that you can find about him online. You'll still be able to see his mugshot from that day that I was talking about as well. Here to the right-hand side at 2418, this is actually the first $1 million home. It was built here in Anchorage in the year 1975, right? 4-bed, 3-bath, 3,200 square feet. Can anybody tell me where this home is located, though? Yeah, underground, right? The kind of first thing that you have are the skylights that are there, right? And so lets all that nice natural sunlight in as well. The covered walkway goes about 14 steps down to the front door here. Now, the cool thing about this home is that the entire backside of the home, nice glass panel, overlooks the creek that is back behind these row of homes, Fish Creek right behind. And so it's pretty cool. Also, you wouldn't be able to tell by looking at it, but this is actually a heated driveway. That's how you know you made it here in Alaska. Good to go. Right now, shovel your own snow. Oh, super nice. Now, I'll tell you guys, you've at least seen your underground home from the outside, right? You might be wondering, is that common here in Alaska? Well, here in the Anchorage area, definitely not, right? That's the only one. And so, if you do want to find underground homes, though, you got to go to the Aleutian Islands, right? And so there, it does get cold enough to warrant building underground homes. So how did Mr. Isaac and his wife, how did they end up with one here? Well, it started with their realtor back in 1975. They ended up getting that specific plot of land real cheap. They used to call these suckers lots back in the day, right? Nobody wanted it, and so he got a good deal, right? Mr. Isaac, he just had one more problem to solve. What were they going to do about the construction of their home, okay? They wanted a big home, and so obviously not enough room, right, on top of that little plot, and so they had to go underground, right? And so they actually got the idea. Him and his wife, they went on a date night to the Anchorage Museum there in downtown on 7th and C, and they learned while they were there from the native Alaskans that used to live here in the Anchorage area. They were known as the Athabascan tribe, and so the Athabascans, they all built their homes underground. Well, Mr. Isaac and his wife thought, well, they can do it back then why can't we, right? So they actually ended up doing it, right? They got their permits, everything legit, and they enjoy a couple of advantages that you might not think of when it comes to owning an underground home. Well, number one, you got to remember, right, safety, right? Because here in Alaska, we are prone to lots and lots of earthquakes, right? And so safety first, right? That's one. Mr. Isaac, he had his walls designed in a V-shaped pattern, help alleviate stress from earthquakes, right? Had an engineer especially do it for him. And so also the other advantage, right, is that the soil, right, surrounding his property is very densely packed. It can actually support up to around 2,000 pounds per square inch of pressure, right? So he's very sturdy whenever earthquakes strike here in Alaska, okay? Now the other advantage is definitely heating, right? Because here in Alaska, we have to pay a lot for heat. Mr. Isaac, he actually saves a full $50 per month compared to what your average Alaskan, what they might pay, right? They're heating above ground, right? It's costing a little bit more. But Mr. Isaac, he's underground. He has a lot of that nice natural insulation, keeps the heat inside. He stays toasty warm all winter long. Now, take us a quick story about the Isaacs, and it highlights the type of people that we have here in Alaska. One time I was there, right, blocking Mr. Isaac's driveway, just doing my little normal Charlie spiel. He comes out, right, and he's got to do very important feeding, right? And so I didn't notice him. I inconvenienced him that day, and I felt a little bit bad. So I wanted to come back after work, try to get back in his good graces, do a little favor for him. And so Mr. Isaac, he put me to work there. I was in his yard there for a couple hours landscaping, right? And so that was about 4 years back, right? I did that work for him. Still, to this day, his wife sends me a Christmas card every single year, right? Thanking her for that yard work that I did 4 years ago, right? So sweet people that we have here in Alaska. Here on the right-hand side as well, this beige home that's here, okay? The blue one as well. Take a mental snapshot. We talk about it. This beige one here, a little two bath, 1,800 square foot home. And actually, you know, the family that lives there, they got a big truck. It's got to be parked outside. That home sold a couple years ago. It's for $500,000, right? So housing prices getting a little bit expensive, right? We were catching up to places like California. Man, it's getting harder and harder to support yourself. But you guys may have noticed the blue one, right? That was right there. Same floor plan, same layout, but in reverse. That one actually sold around 2021, and it sold for $250,000. So what in the world happened here in Anchorage? Housing prices doubled within those short 5 years. Well, the primary reason? Actually scarcity, okay? We are running out of places to build our homes here in the Anchorage area, okay? Travel the direction to your right, and you got homes all the way out until you hit the Cook Inlet, right? We saw that. That body of water that's out there, you can't build homes there. Travel the direction to your left, and you're gonna cross a bunch of homes up until you hit the base of the Chugach Mountains, right? And so those are the mountains that surround Anchorage, right? It's the very same ones that you can see from the airport. Now, if you were to go in the direction behind us, though, well, that's JBEAR that's out there. And JBEAR stands for Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson. Army Air Force Base on the other side of town. The government owns a lot of the land out that way. And with that just leaves us with the terrain out in front of us, okay? Well, as you guys are about to see, right, these homes are going to end, right, in the next 30 seconds or so. Why? It's because of the permafrost that is out here, okay? Those of you that are unfamiliar with the term, permafrost is ground that is permanently frozen year-round here, even in the dead of summer. It remains frozen underneath the surface level. And so as you get towards wintertime and everything starts to freeze back up again, causes this destruction on our roads, right? They notice smooth roads back there, but here it's a little bit more bumpy, right? Because that permafrost. And so causes these massive things on our highways. All these frosts, it's like a roller coaster. You're driving up and down. I'm telling you, it's a little bit more of a mild case out here, but nonetheless, right? Still. And so obviously you shouldn't build homes around areas where you're going to have lots and lots of permafrost. It's going to cause problems for the foundations down the road. However, back in the 1960s, we didn't used to know that. We actually used to build homes here to the right-hand side, turning in by the west. 75 homes that were built out here. Nowadays, we know about a little bit of a different name. Yeah, out to your left here, Earthquake Park, right? So something happened to these homes. We're going to get to figure out exactly what. We'll also take a look at how the land permanently transformed, right, during that earthquake here in 64, okay? And so if you look out to your right-hand side here, guys, you're going to notice that there is about a 10-foot drop, okay, right where the base of that first tree is. And so you'll notice that the ground continues, kind of like rolling hills, right? These rolling hills are actually shock waves from that earthquake back in 64 that are frozen in time, right? And so also the drop here is actually evidence of the landslides, right, that happened as a result of that earthquake. The landslides, right, they destroyed some of these homes, right? And so we're talking about one of the ones that happened, the other ones, right? A little bit interesting. Castle Mountain Fault, there underneath 4th Avenue, remember? And so it runs all the way out to here. We're actually directly on top of that fault line right now. Parallel to it, though, you have the Denali Fault. That is a 1,200 mile long fault line. That was the one that was responsible for that earthquake here. And so you had two tectonic plates right underneath that fault line. One is the Pacific and the other is the North American. During that earthquake, they were pushing up against each other kind of like this, okay? But there was so much tension that had mounted up between these two, right? Just like a spring, you wind, eventually what happens? It explodes, right? That's what happened. One plate slid on top of the other, kind of like this, creating a special type of earthquake that we know nowadays. It's called a megathrust earthquake, when the plates do this type of activity, and it began to violently pound, vibrate, rub against the other plate 4 minutes and 38 seconds. That's how long, right, that earthquake lasted. It's a staggering amount of time, is it not? Now, quick science lesson, guys. What happens when you rub two things together? What do you get? Friction, right? Friction generates that heat, right? And so it's a scientific term for what happened to the ground out here. It is called liquefaction, all right? So much friction, so much heat generated from these two plates that the earth, it heated up out here. Remember I said 75 homes, right? All on flat land, all the way out to the Cook Inlet. Now, look at how the land, right, has transformed, right? These homes, they were built on foundations of blue clay. We don't build the blue clay anymore. It dissolves away in heat, okay? And so that's what happened. Without their foundations, these homes, they sunk into the ground. As you can imagine, with the forces of the earthquake, right, sped that process up pretty significantly. So I'm gonna give you guys a visual here, right? Picture this home here in 64, and you're standing right in front, okay? All of a sudden, the earth has split on both sides of the home, and you see the home, it starts to shake up in front of you, right? It's going up about 10 feet, right? And then it comes down another 10 to 15 feet, shaking the whole way down. You have homes that are doing the same thing, though, in reverse order, almost doing this terrifying, almost land wave-like effect, right? All the way up to the Cook Inlet. You can imagine, right? A lot of destruction happening here in this neighborhood. Eventually, all the homes, right, ended up kind of submerged beneath the ground. Now, I'll tell you, Cyrus, he's the owner of this company, right? His dad used to be doing these very same trolley tours 30 years ago, right? And he would take people out here at Earthquake Park, show them some of the chimney tops that were still protruding from the ground out here at Earthquake Park. Now, obviously, right, that was 30 years ago, right? Nowadays, due to erosion, all that stuff has naturally covered itself up, and we leave it alone, right? Because we want to be respectful of the fact that we turned it into a park. Now, as far as the loss of life, though, you got to remember we were very lucky because this earthquake did happen, right? Good Friday, 5:36 p.m. Where a lot of people, they weren't at their homes here, they were at church, right? And says, yes, that's exactly correct, right? Churches, they're very solidly built here in Anchorage. It's actually one of the reasons why we only lost 7 people here in the downtown area, right? Yes, scientists estimate had this earthquake happen on a regular working day, would have had about 3,000 to 4,000 casualties there in downtown, right? And so, a lot of life, right, saved on that day. Well, now, folks, I'll talk to you a little bit about earthquakes nowadays, right? Because, well, we're pretty used to it right here in Alaska. Now, we do have 2 fault lines, right, that we talked about, that Castle Mountain and the Denali. Well, it's actually one of the reasons why around 60 to 70% of the world's earthquakes strike here in Alaska, okay? Oh. And so, yes, it's said that here in Alaska we'll experience about 5,000 earthquakes in a single year, right? And so, obviously, a lot of those are kind of the smaller range on the Richter scale, kind of that 1 to 3, right? Don't affect our day-to-day lives too much. We actually really love these because we call these microquakes, and they delay the next megathrust earthquake from happening. They release some of that tension that I was talking about between the 2 tectonic plates. And so every few years, though, we're going to have ones that are a little bit bigger than that, right? And so, for example, right, we've got that 5, 6, 7 range on that Richter scale. Last year here in Anchorage, we had a 6.0 that struck in October, right? And so one of the most common things Housing damage, right? Something we got to deal with. Water heaters, that's another thing, right? Those get knocked loose, right? And so you got to repair. The whole thing falls over. Oh, you got to replace the whole thing, right? It's a huge mess. Something you have to deal with, right? Living here in Anchorage, a place with lots and lots of earthquakes. And so scientists say, though, that these megathrust earthquakes, like the one that happened back in '64, well, they happen about once every 60 years or so. Wait, if you're doing the math in your head, you're probably a little bit freaked out right now, right? Grab your airport if you like. Nah, just kidding, guys. About once every 630 years, right? So don't freak out. We're all safe, right? But, however, whoever's going to be here down the line, hopefully hopefully their technology's advanced at least a little bit, so where they're kind of able to mitigate some of the effects of the earthquake. Because we got real lucky, right? Our first time dealing with one here in '64. And the thing is that when you have earthquakes of that size, right, like the one back in '64, you also got to worry about the massive tsunami waves, right? There was a very infamous one, struck the town of Valdez here in Alaska. Tsunami wave came, washed them and the entire shorefront out to sea, right? They had to rebuild the entire town. At least here in Anchorage, we don't have to worry about it too much because we do have the Cook Inlet, right? If you imagine a tsunami wave would come down, it wouldn't take a U-turn in Anchorage here, right? It would actually just continue all the way down the inlets. At least we have that for protection. Now, usually, guys, I don't bring people out here on the 1-hour tours, but I would like to bring you guys out here because I think it's one of the coolest things to see. You can see downtown Anchorage from out here, so get ready. That'll be on your right-hand side here, and you'll see it between these two trees, right? This is a place that we call Point Warrenzoff, actually. So we call the city official name for it. If you look on Google Maps, they're going to tell you like Anchorage Mountain City Viewpoint, right? You can see a lot of the cool buildings, right? The hotels that you might recognize. The Sheraton, that's that big beige one in the back there. Also the Captain Cook Hotel, right? Pretty famous, the brown one that you can see that's up there. And so it's pretty cool, right, from out here. Now, this is also a very popular spot for beluga whale watching, actually. Now, it's not quite season because beluga whales typically, right, like mid-July all the way out through September is when you'll see them. September is real light, but as you can see, right up at there, you see those guys in the green platform there? They are part of the Alaska Beluga Whale Monitoring Program, okay? They are a volunteer group, and they are making sure that the belugas are not extinct here at the Cook Inlet, right? Because they've been on the endangered species list since 2008, right? So it's a little bit sad, but are doing their best efforts to make sure that the beluga whales, they have the tools that they need to deal with the man-made threats that they face, right? A lot of underwater noise and stuff like that. Now, beluga whales, they are one of my favorite creatures, okay? Typically, they start off as kind of like regular whale color, right? Kind of like that dark grayish or even dark brown as well. And so it takes about 5 to 8 years for them to become that solid white color that we all know and love. And belugas, they're one of my favorites because I think they have really cool adaptations, right, that they've made to be able to survive here in the icy climate. And for example, one is that they have no dorsal fin, right? So no fin on the back makes it so that it will get snagged by ice when they're traveling right in the water, when they're swimming. Also, another cool one is that their vertebrae on their backs, their necks, it's not fused. And so they have the ability to like move their heads up, right, left, down, right? And so just like humans, a lot of beluga whales, their vertebrae, it's fused back there. And so they can't, right? Beluga whales are one of the only whales that are capable of doing a backstroke, right? So they can actually swim on their backs. And belugas also super playful as well. They have these foreheads that are filled with fat, and they have the ability to move these. So they can become very expressive, like display sadness, anger, right, happiness, all that type of stuff. So smart even that they can even mimic human speech. And so I'm praying for the belugas, right? Hopefully there'll be more and more out there in the years to come. Now here to the right hand side, you can see at this massive FedEx facility that's here, right? This is a 2-acre facility. And so you're going to see about 100 to 130 flights take off from this location every single day with a package count of about 30,000. Now, of course, we got other big shipping companies up here as well, right? Like UPS, Amazon, right? They have distribution centers here in Anchorage. If you guys are like me, right, you like to track your packages, anything that you order, if you live in the lower 48 and you order a package from Asia, usually it'll get stopped at a sorting facility here in Anchorage, right? We're kind of like the customs for packages, if you will, right? Kind of like the gateway for the rest of the United States. So pretty cool, right? Yeah, you know exactly where your packages stop. Now here to the left as well, while we're in the forest out here, right? This is some of our best chances to see a moose, right? Just keep your eyes between the tips of the trees, right? Let me know if we do spot a moose. We'll stop and we'll take photos, right? I'll be looking as well. Now the moose, they love it out here because of the permafrost that is out here, okay? So reason number one, it is a natural deterrent against their predators. So these are things like bears, wolves, right? Wolverines. These are all things that want to eat the moose. Their predators, they have a hard time traversing through this type of swampy type of terrain out here. But the moose, right, they got no problems at all. They got real strong leg muscles, and so they'll just get off and get running, right? Now, the other reason, right, when moose they love permafrost, that's because they love to eat, right? We already talked about this a little bit with crab apples, but pumpkins, berries, right, all that type of stuff. Moose are a farmer's worst nightmare. I'm telling you, try to keep them away from all those fresh fruits and vegetables. It's nearly impossible because moose, I mean, they have like an 8-foot vertical, right? So they can jump right over a lot of these residential fences. I've seen them do it. They'll do like a little 2-hop step right over, right? And so when they don't have access to stuff like that, they'll just eat the leaves off these trees, right? They become a little bit more vegetarian. They'll eat the grass as well, and that keeps them satiated. Now, see, the thing is, here in Alaska, we have some pretty harsh sun, right, in the summertime that the moose, they're just not used to, right? They're used to a little bit colder weather, and so they have trouble regulating their body temperatures. That's why in the summertime, they kind of like stick to the shady areas, right? And because they have to eat, right, and prepare for the winter time. And so what happens is they eat so much, their metabolisms, they start kicking in overdrive, right? And so whenever that happens, they need to find a nice, cool little patch of permafrost, nice, cool patch of water out here, something like that, cools their bellies right off, right? So they get right back to eating again. It is a natural protection in that way as well, okay? And so a little bit about the cow moose, okay? The cow moose, she's gonna live an average of about 10 to 15 years here in Alaska. However, she's still going to have around 25 to 30 baby moose calves in her lifetime, right? So those mamas, yeah, now's that big, right? Generally, it's the first year she can have one baby moose calf, and it tends to be the years after that, right? Tend to be twins and triplets, and that's how she's able to sustain her moose population here in the wild. Well, now, folks, you may have noticed that we've entered into one of the largest seaplane bases in the world, right? This is the Lake Hood Seaplane Base. Here to the right, that's Lake Spenard that's there. And we'll drive to the other side of Lake Hood. There's about 1,000 different aircraft that you can see at any given point here. And so it's really large, right? Here to the left-hand side as well, you're just going to see some of these cool, right, interesting half-little pickup trucks. And so you're going to notice, right, that this blue and white one, it's missing the beds, right? You got terrible mechanics here in Alaska. No, I'm just kidding. But here to the right, that orange one that's there, you see, right, they call these gators. They'll put the float planes right on top of, like, the little arms that are there. And then you'll see a guy, right, half a pickup truck, kind of transported his float plane around the base. Quite comical, right, to see. Here to the left as well, some of the different types of landing gear that these planes have, right? So the floats, this is why we call them float planes, right? Because they float right on top of the water. That blue and white one that's there, regular plane tires, you can see. Also coming up here on the right-hand side, this gray and white one here, you can see it has a different variation of tires. We call those tundra tires or bush tires, okay? Those are super expensive, by the way, about $2,000 for just one tire, right? So, yeah, super expensive. Here to the right-hand side as well, too. Oh, yeah, look at that one taking off right from the strip here. Stop aircraft crossing, right? So you probably don't see that every day. And so, yeah, planes will usually be parked out here, right, to the right-hand side. And then they'll come right over on this road in front of us. These gates, they are sensor operated, right? So they open up, and then they go over here, usually to the left-hand side. That is their takeoff and landing strip, as we just saw, right, for the planes that have tires. Now you'll notice this sign, right? It says caution, right? Yield to all aircraft. Well, that might lead you to believe that these planes, they only have the right of way here at the airport. But actually, these planes, they have the right of way everywhere, right? It's kind of reminding you of the wall here in Alaska. And so that's why you got to have eyes on a swivel, right? Look up in the sky for planes that might be coming up from above, right? Plane-to-car collisions, oftentimes fatal. You don't want to be anywhere near one of those, okay? At our 2 o'clock here, too. Going over. But yeah, at our 2 o'clock here, you can see the Ted Stevens International Air Traffic Control Tower there in the distance. They actually control the commercial traffic on that side, as well as kind of like the more private traffic over here on this side. I'd say about 90% of these planes, by the way, privately owned. Here to the right, though, the 10%, right, commercially owned. Regal Air, they operate a float plane tour company out of the seaplane base. Look, 3 of their planes are gone, so a lot of people doing flight scene today. It's a lot of fun. Also, can't really see it from here, but there's another company that operates here that I really like, Russ Flying Service, RUSTS. There's a coupon for those guys in the books that we give you at the curb. Now here to the right-hand side, this red and white one that's there, that one is called a Super Cub, okay? If you're on the left-hand side, you can look at that gold one. And so Super Cubs, very lightweight. In fact, if you were to go and tug on one of those, okay, with just one hand, they would move. You barely have to exert any force at all, right? So Super Cubs are a lot of fun to fly because of that, because they're super maneuverable. We actually call them kites with engines, lovely thing, right? Here coming up as well, the one I usually point to is gone, so here to the left instead, this blue and white one, not the first one that's but the next one, the darker one. This one is called a Cessna, right? And so Cessnas, those are going to be about 4 to 6 seats, and we actually call those the station wagons of the sky, right? You could actually fit a nice little family right on board one of those Cessnas. And so, if this guy's gonna be taking off here in just a second, we'll probably watch that. And so, yeah, we'll watch that, and then I'll, yeah, just let you guys enjoy it. Enjoy it. Yeah, sweet, sweet, sweet.
See how his little tail's dragging down?
There it is. Look at that, like 5 feet, right? That's why we call them kites for legends. And so, yeah, I'll tell you guys, as far as Cessnas go, right, though, call them station wagons, right, as well. And, yeah, once you own one of those, right, typically it's going to be about $300,000 to $600,000 for a used Cessna, right? So, super expensive planes. Once you own one, though, and you have a heated driveway, that's how you do it. You made it here in Alaska. Now, private property as well, right? That's what they kind of like treat these like, because look here on the right-hand side, look at the little asphalt strip, okay, here. And so they got a place to park their cars, right? Take their plane out for a spin. They definitely treat these like private, but they are leased here as commercial. And so out here, it's going to run you about 60 to 70 bucks for a spot like we saw back there. Only land there, but here, these spots that are right by the lake, they charge a little bit more for these, 130 to 140 bucks for a spot here. Now, the thing at this seaplane base is right now, there is over a 10-year wait list. That's how popular, right, it is with Alaskans.
There's a Russ plane coming in right now.
Oh, you guys see another one too?
The Russ coming in.
Oh, Russ Flying Service plane. Where's that at?
Behind you.
Is it coming in behind?
No,
Full plane?
I'm behind my left back here.
Oh, you're left, right?
Passenger side.
Other side.
Sorry, Jacob. Your other left. Yeah, my other left.
Other left. I don't know if we can get there right now too. We got traffic behind us too, so it's gonna be a little bit tough.
Yeah.
But yeah. And so by this point, right, you guys have seen a lot of the planes, right? You might be wondering, is there a reason why is there so many planes here in Alaska? Well, we got to remember we have very little road system, right? I mean, you can only access, I'd say, about 10% of Alaska, right, using our roads. Get to the other 90% here, right? Yeah. Here we go. Look at that. Boom, boom, taking off just like that. Super cool, right? Yeah, you guys can see take off there and take off from here. See, that's more than most people get to see. But yes, and so I'll tell you, right, very little road system, right? So that's why these planes are very popular, right? I'd say about 90% of Alaska, right, you can have to either fly or set sail to. Now, for instance, even to highlight this, okay, to get to our own capital, right, which is up here, up in Juneau, technically, right, there is a road that connects Anchorage to Juneau, right? You have to drive all the way around the mountain range, though, so nobody does that. Most efficient way, you gotta get there, you gotta fly, right? So you can fly up there. Also, you can take a boat, right? It's another option. Yeah. So here as well in Anchorage, we are known as the seaplane capital of the world here. This actually has to do with the very unique blend of topography, okay? So you'll notice, we got a lot of mountain ranges, but we also have a lot of rural forest. And so with that being said, it's actually pretty difficult, right, to find a clear strip of land to actually land your plane in outside of an airfield here in Alaska. And so that's where the third factor comes in, though. We have well over 3 million lakes here in Alaska. And that's why it makes it such a dream, right, to kind of own a float plane. So many places where you can just kind of explore, right, the state and park pretty much go anywhere you want to go. Now, I'll tell you guys about one of my favorite competitions growing up as a kid. It's called the STOL competition, all right? So STOL stands for short takeoff and landing. What they'll do is they will modify the engines of the Super Cubs, like we saw here. They'll try to see how short they can get the distance from a complete standstill to takeoff up in the air, right? And so the record, right, for one of those, for the takeoff portion, just under 8 feet, right? And so you saw it, right? And it's crazy, right? So it's like crazy. The takeoff, also the landing portion as well, that one was just under 12 feet, right? So at that point, it almost looks like a crash, right? G-force is pretty crazy in that competition. Check it out, right? STOL competition every year here in Alaska. Now, I'll tell you guys a little bit about one of my best friends growing up too. Her name is Ashley, all right? So Ashley, she actually started learning how to fly these float planes at the age of 11 years old. Okay, so very young, she started to learn how to fly. And it was from the ages of 11 to 16, right? Her grandpa was teaching her. And by the time she turned 16, aced her pilot's license test, no problems. Get this though, she could not even parallel park her car until she was 24 years old. 8-year difference, right? From the time she got her pilot's license. I don't know what's going on, right? And so, actually, I'll tell you, one of her primary reasons behind getting her pilot's license, she loves fishing. And so she would go up and try to find like these remote spots here in Alaska that only she knew about. And so she would love taking up fish to her grandma and grandpa. They lived up in Fairbanks. Okay, for those of you guys that don't know, Fairbanks to Anchorage is about 8 to 12 hours distance, right? Depending on how fast you're driving. And so, yeah, I mean, not suitable, right, for a day trip. If you want to make it up there in a day, you gotta fly, right? Like Ashley, you fly up there, Alaska Airlines, an hour, right? You take her a little bit longer on her float plane. She take about 2.5 hours to get up there. But nonetheless, right, she was doing that at 16 years old. Fly out from school Friday evening, come back Sunday evening to be able to make it back in time for school the next day, right, on Monday morning. So probably a little bit of a different life than you're probably used to seeing, right, in other parts of the world. Now, folks, I'll take this time to tell you a little bit about my Uncle Bill, right? This is actually one of my favorite stories to tell. My uncle, he's actually no longer with us today, right? So he's passed on now. But this is one of my favorites, right? Because it keeps his memory alive. Well, to give you an idea of the type of person that my uncle was, still inscribed on his tombstone was his motto. And his motto was, seemed like a good idea at the time, right? So, you imagine, right? A little bit of a wild guy, right, my uncle? And so one time, he decided to take this nice young lady out on a date. Went out to a fine dining restaurant here in Anchorage. It's called Simon and Seaford's. Okay, so they had a nice candlelit dinner, right? Enjoying each other's company. It was going great. Well, my uncle, he wanted to impress her, right? So he invited her out into his plane. They were flying up there for about 30 minutes. My uncle, he came across a bridge. And so, trying to impress her, right? Flew under the bridge, over the bridge, out from under the bridge again. Successfully completed that loop-de-loop. And I'll tell you, the young lady that he was with, super impressed with his flying. It worked on her. However, the sheriff that was watching, not so impressed at all, right, with my uncle's maneuver. And so he actually saw my uncle land the plane from within eyesight, and the sheriff, he was mad. He got into his car. He eventually caught up to where my uncle had landed, and yeah, right, took my uncle to jail on that day. Why? Well, my uncle was flying around without a pilot's license, right? So, yep. In addition to that loop-de-loop, right, probably shouldn't be doing that. Moral of the story, ever doing something you're really not supposed to be doing. Trying not to draw attention to yourself. But brings me to my next point, right? Around 10% of Alaskans, we all know how to fly planes. Only about half the folks flying, though, actually have their pilot's license, right? So why is that? Well, number one, right, you gotta think about the mindset here in Alaska. We don't like a lot of the strict rules and regulations. Man, it feels like the governments, they try to pass new law every single day, right? We tend to adopt a little bit more of a libertarian mindset here in Alaska. And so, you know, we just want to be left alone. Take Alaska, right? Born and raised, grown up here, and right, learning how to fly. Usually it's going to be from a relative. And so, of course, that information's not going to get second guessed, right? And so that's why that type of stuff can happen. Now, the other reason, right, it's kind of in conjunction with the first, but nowadays it's actually pretty expensive to get your pilot's license, right? So that's when you go to relatives instead. It'll set you back around $25,000 to $30,000, right, to obtain your pilot's license nowadays. So through flight school, all the exams you got to take. And so that's enough about float planes, guys. Let's talk to you a little bit about the different streets, right, that are named here in Alaska. So here to the left, right, Minnesota Drive we're coming up to. And we just turned off back there was Wisconsin Street, Iowa Drive as well. These are actually all named in honor of the farmers that flew up here as part of the New Deal. And so they were tasked with figuring out the growing season up here in Alaska. They figured out pretty quickly that as long as, you stick to growing in the summer, nice long daylight hours, you'll be able to grow crops and vegetables just fine. And so they settled about 45 minutes north of here in an area called the Matanuska Valley, okay, right next to two valley cities of Wasilla and Palmer. And still to this day, our farmers, they will try to compete, see who can raise the biggest crops and vegetables. Anybody know what we're most famous for growing here in Alaska? Anybody? You'll never guess it. You'll never guess it, by the way. Guinness Book of World Records, largest cabbage ever produced. It was a whopping 138 pounds, right? So, yeah, they get up there, right? Pretty famous for pumpkins, too, as well, right? Largest one that we grew up here, 2,040 pounds, right? And so, yeah, if you didn't know, right, about the size of a four-door Mini Cooper. Those pumpkins, they get up there, right? It wasn't hollow either. I mean, they need to take a crane to actually lift it up, right? Put it on the scale to get it weighed. So, Alaska State Fair up in Palmer. Check it out. Well, now, folks, this area that we've been driving through here, well, this is actually the Northern Lights Shopping Center, right? So if you live over here, Midtown, this is where you do a lot of your shopping. While we're on the topic, though, anybody ever had a chance to see the Northern Lights in their lifetime? Show hands, right there. Yeah, okay, about half you guys. Show hands one more time if you recommend it to the others on the trolley. Yeah, one more time. There we go. Everybody's hands shot up. So take it from them, right? Take it from me. I've had the pleasure of seeing the lights probably well over 30 different times in my lifetime. Oh man, every time just majestic. I love seeing reds. I love seeing greens. Those are my favorites. I'm going to prepare you guys, okay? Because to see the lights, it can be a little bit difficult, okay? The first thing that you need, complete darkness. If you have any amount of daylight in the sky, you are not going to be able to see the lights. Second thing that you need, clear skies, right? And that's important because here in Alaska, we have a lot of cloudy days, okay? Third thing that you need, solar activity. We measure that on a scale from 1 to 10, and that's 10 being you're going to see an absolutely fantastic light show, right? That's what you want, all the colors in the rainbow in the sky, right? Any number of 4, and I'd say probably safe to come back on a little bit of a different day, right? Not going to see the lights on that specific one. And so now that you know what you need, and you know that it's not guaranteed as well, I always tell people, best place to see the lights here in Alaska, go up to a town called Fairbanks, right? So go to Fairbanks, stay at a place there called the Chena Hot Springs, okay? So Chena, sounds exactly as it sounds, right? Better your choice there in one hand while you relax, enjoy the hot spring, right? See the lights from above. Very romantic place to visit. You gotta go up there at least once in your life. It's a lot of fun. Now, folks, tell you this area that we've been driving through, okay? For the last couple minutes here, between Midtown and downtown Anchorage, it's called Spinar Territory. And so Spinar Territory, it's actually all named after this one gentleman. His name was Joseph A. Spinar. Now, Joe, he was actually part of that railway construction crew that I told you guys about all the way at the beginning of the tour. He was one of those 2,000 men. But Joe, he'd been working railroads for about 3-4 years now. He had finally saved up a little bit of money. He was looking for a career change, right? He was tired of doing 15-hour shifts on that rail. And so he decided in the year 1918 to open up one of the very first bars there in downtown Anchorage. And within just a couple of years of running his bar, Joe, he had become a millionaire, right? He was living the American dream. He had struck it rich. What came around, though, 2 years later, 1920, shut him down. Anybody know?
Prohibition.
Prohibition, that's exactly correct, right? Banning the sale of alcoholic goods here in the United States. Joe, he realized that. He shut down his bar, right? Moved it out to Spinar Territory, opened it up again, free from the law. Very quickly, it actually became Alaska's first red light district back there, right? So, I don't have to tell you what that means, right? Ladies and night looking for employment at Joe's Bar, right? And keep it old seedy part time, man. I'm telling you, you had about 2,000 people living here in Anchorage back then, and you'd have 2 common types of shootings, right, that would happen. Your first one, classic, right? 2 young men, they would compete for the affection of 1 young lady. Well, of course, there wasn't enough to go around, right? So they'd have to whip out their pistols, right then and there, quick draw style, bang, right? Whoever shot second, tragic end to one of those young lads. Now, your second type of shooting, also pretty common, when a wife would go searching for her husband. Yes, if she happened, right, to come upon Joe's Bar, right, see her husband, maybe receiving a specific type of date, so one of those young ladies, ooh, it was over him, right? She already need to have her gun on her for protection. Moose and bears, right? Crime of passion right there. Whip out her pistol, bang, gun for the husband. That type of shooting, so common, called it the Spinar divorce. No lawyers, right? No paperwork. None of that necessary. Just one quick bite of egg, right? That's all you needed. And so here's something interesting, right? Say she shot him. Didn't kill him, all right? Escaped for the husband. She was going to spend up to about 4 years in jail here in the 1900s for that attempted murder. Say she shot a moose out of season, though. 7 years in jail. The exact same lovely wife, right? It kind of shows you our priorities a little bit twisted, right? Back in the day, I mean, even nowadays, right? We still have wacky time frames and laws. I mean, I'll tell you, it's crazy up here in Anchorage. Well, now, guys, since we're kind of back here, well, I'll tell you, did you guys notice that we do not have a J Street here in downtown Anchorage, okay? And so it actually jumped straight from I to K, right? It was the politicians at the time, they wrote in cursive back in the day, right? And you gotta remember, in the 1900s, illiteracy was a big problem as well. They wanted to avoid any confusion, so they got together the equivalent of one city council meeting, right? Scrap it, just like that, snap a finger. That is the reason why we do not have a J Street here in downtown to this day. Don't believe me, right? Look it up on Google Maps. And so, check it out though. More you know, right here in Anchorage. Well, folks, now, since we're kind of on the final leg of our tour here, I do want to give you guys a few recommendations. Some of my favorite places to eat while you're here in Anchorage. We just took a left here on E Street, but if you were to continue down about half a block there to Tent City Tapas, so that's TNTCITY, best burgers and steaks in town there. They have these duck pack fries. Oh man, just to die for. You guys have a good time there at Tent City. The seating there can be a little bit small, so if it's full, I do recommend also a couple of other ones, right? Glacier Brew House is really good as well. That's here on 5th Avenue. Here to the left, right? About 3.5 blocks down there. Glacier is a really good place for like seafood, right? So like wild Alaskan salmon, king crab, halibut, lobster, all that type of stuff. Pretty good there, okay? 49th State as well. That's down there by 3rd Avenue, right? Drove by that at the beginning of our tour. And so 49 State, they do really good like appetizers there. I think they have one of the best like nachos, Wari pretzels, that type of stuff. Real good there. Also, here to the right, Wild Scoop's best ice cream here in Alaska. So definitely give it a try. Well, hope you guys enjoyed the tour today, guys. If you did enjoy it, remember, my name is Jared. If you did not enjoy it, though, my name is Cyrus, okay? Thanks for coming on board today, though, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Yeah, thanks for coming on board today. And, thank you, guys. But yes, have a wonderful rest of your vacations. And have a good one, guys.